What's up, everyone, and welcome to this week's CyberSecurity Weekly, where we review the security events that happened in the last week. As always, I've broken the stories down in the timeline, so you can jump around to any story you want. You can check out the stories list in the description below, or click on any break in the timeline to jump around. Now, if you find my work valuable, and I hope you do, of course I ask you to hit the like button, share this episode with your friends and network, and if you have not already, please consider subscribing to my channel.
Oh, drat these computers. They're so naughty and so complex. I could pinch them.
We start off today with phishing. In February 2022, Cisco Talos researchers started observing China-linked cyber espionage group Mustang Panda conducting phishing attacks against European entities, including Russian organizations. The attacks were also reported by Google's TAG team, which confirmed they were for intelligence purposes. Mustang Panda, also known as Red Delta or Bronze President, has been active since at least 2012. It targeted American and European entities such as government organizations, think tanks, NGOs, and even Catholic organizations at the Vatican. Past campaigns were focused on Asian countries, including Taiwan, Hong Kong, Mongolia, Tibet, and Myanmar. In recent campaigns, threat actors used European Union reports on the conflict in the Ukraine and Ukrainian government reports as lures. Upon opening the reports, the infected process starts loading or leading to the deployment of malware on the victim's system. The final state malware employed in this campaign is the PlugX implant, custom stagers and reverse shells, and interpreter-based shellcode. The threat actor heavily relies on sending lures via phishing emails to achieve initial infection. These lures often masquerade as legitimate documents of national and organizational interest to the targets, reads the report published by Cisco Talos. These infection vectors deploy malware predominantly consisting of the PlugX remote access Trojan with custom stagers, reverse shells, interpreter, and Cobalt Strike, which act as another mechanism for achieving long-term access into their targets. The attack chains observed in the recent Mustang Panda attacks involved the use of benign executable used to sideload a malicious DLL, which is used as a loader for the PlugX implant. In some cases, the threat actors used stagers and reverse shells instead of using PlugX. Frappo. Frappo acts as a phishing-as-a-service and enables cybercriminals the ability to host and generate high-quality phishing pages which impersonate major online banking, e-commerce, popular retailers, and online services to steal customer data. The platform has been built by cybercriminals to leverage spam campaigns that distribute professional phishing content. Frappo is actively advertised in the dark web and on Telegram, where it has a group with over 1,965 active members. There, cybercriminals discuss how successful they've been at attacking the customers of various online services. Initially, these services popped up in the dark web around the 22nd of March in 2021 and has been significantly upgraded since then. The last update of the service was registered on the 1st of May 2022. Frappo grants cybercriminals the ability to work with stolen data anonymously and in an encrypted format. It provides anonymous billing, technical support, updates, and the tracking of collected credentials via a dashboard. Frappo was initially designed to be an anonymous cryptocurrency wallet based on a fork of MetaMask and is completely anonymous. It doesn't require a threat actor to register an account. The authors of Frappo provide several payment plans for cybercriminals depending on their chosen duration of the subscription. Like a SaaS-based services and platform for legitimate businesses, Frappo allows cybercriminals to minimize costs for the development of phishing kits and to use the same on a bigger scale. Notably, the deployment process of phishing pages is fully automated. Frappo is leveraging a pre-configured Docker container and a secure channel, allowing it to collect compromised credentials via API. Once Frappo is properly configured, statistical data will be collected and visualized, such as how many victims opened the phishing page, accessed authorization and entered credentials, uptime, and the server status. Compromised credentials will be visible in the logs section with additional details about each victim, such as IP address, user agent, username, password, and the rest. The observed phishing pages, or phishlets, are high quality and contain interactive scenarios which trick the victims into entering authorization credentials. Phishing as a services like Frappo are successfully used by threat actors for things like account takeover, business email compromise, payment, and identity data theft. Cybercriminals are forever leveraging advanced tools and tactics to attack consumers globally. The protection of digital identity becomes one of the top key priorities for online safety and subsequently becomes a new digital battlefield wherein threat actors are hunting for stolen data. We now move on to patches. Microsoft announced to have addressed a critical remote code execution flaw tracked to CVE-2022-29972 and named Synapse, affecting Azure Synapse and Azure Data Factory. The vulnerability was discovered by researchers from Orca Security and resides in a third-party driver used in the above solutions. The vulnerability was specific to the third-party Open Database Connectivity Driver, or ODBC, used to connect to Amazon Redshift in Azure Synapse pipelines and Azure Data Factory integration runtime, and did not impact Azure Synapse by itself or as a whole. Reads the advisory published by Microsoft. The vulnerability could have allowed an attacker to perform remote command execution across IR infrastructure, not limited to a single tenant. A threat actor can exploit this flaw to acquire the Azure Data Factory Service Certificate and execute commands in another tenant's Azure Data Factory integration runtimes. Researchers at Orca Security speculate that the tenant separation is not sufficiently robust to prevent users from accessing sensitive data of other tenants, including Azure's keys, service keys, API keys, and passwords to other services. Experts discovered the Synapse issue in on January 4th and fixed it on April 15th. But there was a video proof of concept of the exploitation of the issue, which I don't have here. The video shows a customer uses Azure Synapse Analytics to store credentials to an external service, HTTP server in this example, and the attacker exploring the issue to access these credentials while executing code on the customer's machine. We are going to hold off on publishing technical details of the exploits we have found until June 14th for two reasons. First, the vulnerabilities are also present in the on-premise version of Synapse, and this will provide Microsoft customers some additional time to deploy and remediate the existing mitigations in their on-premises environments, wrote Orca Security. Second, we believe that the technical details of the exploit will make it easier for attackers to find more open attack vectors, and the delay will allow time for organizations to reconsider their usage of Synapse, which means that's a recommendation for any company to stop using Synapse and find another solution. Zyxel has moved to address a critical security vulnerability, CVE-2022-30525, with a CVSS rating score or score rating of 9.8, affecting Zyxel firewall devices that enables unauthenticated and remote attackers to gain arbitrary code execution as the nobody user. The issue was discovered by Rapid7, which reported it on April 13th. Zyxel silently addressed the flaw by releasing security updates on April 28th, 2022. Rapid7 pointed out that this choice leaves defenders in the dark and it gives advantages to the attackers. According to Rapid7, there are more than 15,000 internet-facing vulnerable systems tracked by the Shodan search engine. The researchers also developed a Metasploit module for this issue and published a video proof of concept of the attack. The vendor found the following issues in its VMG3312-2-T20A wireless router and AP configuration. There's a command injection, which is CVE-2022-26413. There's a buffer overflow, which is CVE-2022-26414. And there's a local privilege escalation, which is CVE-2022-0556 flaw. Microsoft Patch Tuesday security updates for May 2022 addressed 3 zero-day vulnerabilities, one of which is under active attack. The IT giant fixed a total of 74 flaws in Microsoft Windows and Windows Components, .NET, Visual Studio, Microsoft Edge, Chromium-based, Microsoft Exchange Server, Office and Office Components, Windows Hyper-V, Windows Authentication Methods, BitLocker, Windows Cluster Shared Volume, Remote Desktop Client, Windows Network File System, NTFS, and Windows Point-to-Point Tunneling Protocol. Of the 74 flaws addressed by the company, 7 are rated critical, 66 are rated important, 1 is rated low in severity. 7 of these issues were reported through the ZDI program. The zero-day flaw under attack or under active attack tracked to CVE-2022-26925 is a Windows LSA spoofing vulnerability. The flaw can be exploited by an unauthenticated attacker to force a domain controller to authenticate against another server using NTLM. The other zero-day issues addressed by Microsoft are a Windows Hyper-V denial of service flaw tracked to CVE-2022-22713 and Insight software CVE 2022-29972 Magnitude Simba Amazon Redshift ODBC driver, which we talked about in one of the previous patches. The company also fixed a Windows Network File System remote code execution vulnerability tracked to CVE-2022-26937 remote. Unauthenticated attackers can exploit the issue to execute code in the context of the network file system service on affected systems. Experts pointed out that NFS isn't enabled by default, but it's a common option in environments where Windows systems are other operating systems coexist. We now move on to attacks, vulnerabilities, and updates. AGCO, one of the most important agricultural machinery manufacturers, announced that a ransomware attack impacted some of its production facilities. The company was forced to shut down portions of its IT systems in response to the incident. AGCO, or AGCO, did not provide any details about the attack. The company is still investigating the extent of the security breach. The incident will affect business operations for several days and potentially longer to fully resume all services. AGCO, your agricultural company, a worldwide manufacturer and distributor of agriculture equipment, announced today that on May 5th, 2022, it was subject to a ransomware attack that has impacted some of its production facilities. AGCO, or AGCO, is still investigating the extent of the attack, but it is anticipated that its business operations will be adversely affected for several days and potentially longer to fully resume all services depending upon how quickly the company is able to repair its systems, reads the announcement published by the company. The company will provide updates as the situation progresses. Now, U.S. authorities recently warned of the risks of ransomware attacks against U.S. agricultural sector, and either the company wasn't fast enough, they didn't take it seriously, or something went wrong between the communication from the U.S. authorities and AGCO because they got attacked. Conti ransomware gang added the Peru MOF Dirección General de Inteligencia to the list of its victims on its Tor leak site. The National Directorate of Intelligence is the premier intelligence agency in Peru. The agency is responsible for national, military, and police intelligence, as well as counterintelligence. The ransomware gang claims to have stolen 9.41 gigabytes of data. At the time of the article writing, the website of the Peru DIGIMIN is not reachable. Clearly, an attack against an intelligence agency could lead to the disclosure of secret and confidential documents and pose a risk to national security. Last week, the U.S. Department of State offered up to $15 million for information that helps identify and locate leadership and co-conspirators of the Conti ransomware gang. Last week, security and application delivery solutions provider F5 released its security notification to inform customers that it has released security updates for tens of vulnerabilities in its products. The company addressed a total of 43 vulnerabilities. The most severe one is a critical issue tracked as CVE 2022-1388 with a CVSS score of 9.8. An unauthenticated attacker with network access to the big IP system through the management port and or self-IP addresses can exploit CVE 2022-1388 flaw to execute arbitrary system commands, create or delete files, or disable services. This vulnerability may allow an unauthenticated attacker with network access to the big IP system through the management port and or self-IP addresses to execute arbitrary system commands, create delete files, or disable services. There is no data plane exposure. This is a control plane issue only, reads the advisory published by the vendor. F5 has released patched versions of the affected software. The company provided the following temporary mitigations for customers that cannot install the patched versions. Block iControl REST access to the self-IP address, block iControl REST access to the management interface, modify the big IP HTTPD configuration. Now, researchers at Positive Technologies announced to have developed an exploit code for CVE 2022-1388 in F5's big IP and urge admins to address it ASAP to protect their systems. Researchers from Horizon 3 Attack Team also confirmed that the CVE 2022-1388 is trivial to exploit. The experts also plan to release a proof of concept exploit code this week. Researchers are warning of threat actors already attempting to exploit this vulnerability. The Computer Emergency Response Team of Ukraine has detected malspam campaigns aimed at spreading an info stealer called Jester. The malicious messages spotted by the Ukrainian CERT have the subject line chemical attack and contain a link to a weaponized Microsoft Excel file. Upon opening the Office documents and activating the embedded macro, the infection process starts. Government experts observe that malicious executables are downloaded from compromised web resources. The Jester stealer is able to steal credentials and authentication tokens from internet browsers, mail, FTP, VPN clients, cryptocurrency wallets, password managers, messengers, game programs, and more. The info stealer implements anti-analysis capabilities like anti-VM, debug, and sandbox, but it doesn't implement any persistence mechanism. The threat actors exfiltrate data via Telegram using statically configured proxy addresses. Telegram, as a command and control, it was one of my previous episodes where we talked about. Now, stolen data through statically defined proxy addresses, including in the Tor network, is transmitted to the attacker in Telegram, continues the report. The report includes indicators of compromise. Cybersecurity researchers from BlackBerry are warning of a remote access Trojan called DCRat, aka Dark Crystal Rat, that is available for sale on Russian cybercrime forums. The DCRat backdoor is very cheap. It appears to be the work of a lone threat actor that goes online with the monikers of Bolden is 44, Crystal Coder, and whatever that is, but I guess it translates to coder. Prices for the backdoor start at 500 rubles or $5 for a 2-month license, 2,200 rubles or $21 for a year, and $40 for a lifetime subscription. Sold predominantly on Russian underground forums, DCRat is one of the cheapest commercial rats we've ever come across. The price for this backdoor starts at 500 rubles, less than $5, for a 2-month subscription, and occasionally dips even lower during special promotions. No wonder it's so popular with professional threat actors as well as script kiddies, reads the report published by BlackBerry. The author implemented an effective malware and continues to efficiently maintain it. The researchers pointed out that the price for this malware is a fraction of the standard price such rat or on Russian underground forums. DCRat first appeared in the threat landscape in 2018, but a year later, it was redesigned and relaunched. DCRat is written in .NET and has a modular structure. Affiliates could develop their own plugins by using a dedicated integrated development environment called DCRat Studio. The modular architecture of the malware allows to extend its functionalities for multiple malicious purposes, including surveillance, reconnaissance, information theft, DDoS attacks, and arbitrary code execution. The DCRat consists of 3 components: a stealer client executable, a single PHP page serving as the command and control endpoint interface, and an administrator tool. The malware is under active development, as mentioned before. The author announces any news and updates through a dedicated Telegram channel that had approximately 3,000 subscribers. During recent months, the researchers, after observed DCRat, or often observed DCRat clients being deployed with the use of Cobalt strike beacons through the Prometheus TDS traffic direction system. DCRat also implements a kill switch, which would render all instances of the DCRat administrator tool unusable, irrespective of subscriber license validity. The administrator tool allows subscribers to sign into an active C2 server, configure and generate builds of the DCRat client executable, execute commands on infected systems. Experts concluded that the rat is maintained daily, which means that the author is working on this project full-time. Hacktivists and white hat hackers continue to support Ukraine against the Russian invasion. In a recent attack, they defaced Russian TV with anti-war messages and took down the RU2 video streaming site. The attack took place during Russia's Victory Day. Russians attempting to view the parade were displayed pro-Ukraine messages due to a cyber attack that impacted the Russian TV listings system. According to the BBC, the coordinated attack affected major Russian networks including Channel 1, Rossiya 1, MTS, Rostelecom, and NTV+. The hackers compromised the Russian TV schedule page and changed the name of every program to "On Your Hands is the Blood of Thousands of Ukrainians and Their Hundreds of Murdered Children. TV and the authorities are lying. No to war." The news of the attack was also announced by Anonymous, but at this time it's not clear which group hit the Russian media. A cyber attack also took offline the Russian video streaming platform YouTube, which is considered by pro-Ukraine hacktivists a crucial component of the Russian propaganda. According to the company, the threat actors did not access their archive, and it is working to restore the platform. On the other side, groups of hacktivists online claim that the YouTube code has been completely removed from the platform and plan to leak it as soon as possible. Multiple cybersecurity authorities from Australia, Canada, New Zealand, the UK, and the US this week released a joint advisory warning of threats targeting managed service providers and their customers. The cybersecurity authorities of the United Kingdom, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, and the United States have released joint cybersecurity advisories protecting against cyber threats to managed service providers and their customers, to provide guidance on how to protect against malicious cyber activity targeting managed service providers and their customers, reads the joint advisory. The CSA, created in response to reports of increased activity against MSPs and their customers provides specific guidance for both MSPs and customers aimed at enabling transparent discussions on securing sensitive data. Anytime I hear the word MSP, it just conjures up memories of the Kaseya hack, of course. The alert provides tactical actions for MSPs and customers, including identify and disable accounts that are no longer in use, enforce MFA and MSP on MSP accounts that have access to customer environment, and monitor for unexplained failed authentication. Ensure MSP customer contracts transparently identify ownership of information and communications technologies, security roles, and responsibilities. MSPs are a privileged target for both nation-state actors and cybercriminals that once compromised their infrastructure could ultimately attack the customer's infrastructure by exploiting their access. The Five Eyes agencies warned of supply chain attacks targeting MSPs, and that could impact the customer, such as the SolarWinds attacks. Among 45 bugs fixed by F5, by the well-known manufacturer of computer security systems, 2 were detected by TIM Research Laboratory, Red Team Research, or RTR, as part of the bug hunting activities on the F5 Traffic Signaling Delivery Controller solution. F5 Traffic Signaling Delivery Controller solution helps operators to scale and manage services and applications in 4G and LTE networks. It also allows the routing and exchange of data between different protocols, such as Diameter, SS7, HTTP, etc. It uses an advanced transformation and flow management engine while satisfying the increasing demand for services and broadband subscribers. SDC solution can be configured and monitored through a web user interface that has been detected as vulnerable to 2 security bugs found by Red Team Research Security. According to the institutional website, once these vulnerabilities were identified, researchers Valerio Alessandroni and Matteo Bruti immediately started the process of coordinated vulnerability disclosure, or CVD, with Massimiliano Broli leading the project by publishing only after the availability of the fixes made by the vendor. We are talking about one of the few Italian centers of industrial research about security bugs where since for the last few years, they perform bug hunting activities that aim to search for undocumented vulnerabilities, leading to a subsequent issuance of a Common Vulnerabilities and Exposures, or CVE, on the National Vulnerability Database of the United States of America once the coordinated vulnerability disclosure with the vendor is over. In 2 years of activity, the team has detected many zero-Ds on very popular products of big vendors such as Oracle, IBM, Ericsson, Nokia, Computer Associates, Siemens, QNAP, Johnson & Control, Schneider Electric, as well as other vendors on different types of software architectures. In 2 years, more than 70 CVEs have been published, 4 of them with critical severity of 9.8 of CVS's version 3 scores or higher, 23 of them with a high severity, and 36 of them with a medium severity. Speaking about a vulnerability detected on Johnson & Control's Metasys reporting engine, web services product, Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency of the United States of America issued a specific security bulletin reporting as the background of the sectors, critical infrastructure sectors, countries, areas used, and company headquarters. Cybersecurity researchers from Securi uncovered a massive campaign that compromised thousands of WordPress websites by injecting malicious JavaScript code that redirects visitors to scam content. The infections automatically redirect site visitors to third-party websites containing malicious content, i.e. phishing pages, malware downloads, scam pages, or commercial websites to generate illegitimate traffic. The websites are all shared a common issue. Malicious JavaScript had been injected within their website's files and the database, including legitimate core WordPress files such as the includes JS, jQuery, jQuery min.js, and jQuery migrate.min.js. Once the website had been compromised, attackers had attempted to automatically infect any JS files with jQuery in the names. They injected code that begins with a /* track my pass, some evaluation string, etc. Reads the analysis published by Securi. In some attacks, users were redirected to a landing page containing a CAPTCHA check. Upon clicking on the fake CAPTCHA, they'll be opted in to receive unwanted ads even when the site isn't open. The ads will look like they are generated from the operating system and not from a browser. According to Securi, at least 322 websites were compromised as a result of this new wave of attacks and were observed redirecting visitors to the malicious website drakefollow.co. Our team has seen an influx of complaints for this specific wave of the massive campaign targeting WordPress sites beginning May 9th, 2022, which has impacted hundreds of websites already at the time of writing, concludes the report. It's been found that attackers are targeting multiple vulnerabilities in WordPress plugins and themes to compromise the website and inject their malicious scripts. We expect the hackers will continue registering new domains for this ongoing campaign as soon as the existing ones became blacklisted. Researchers from Proofpoint discovered a new remote access Trojan called Nerbian RAT that implements sophisticated anti-analysis and anti-reversing capabilities. The malware spreads via malspam campaigns using COVID-19 and World Health Organization themes. The name of the rat comes from a named function in the source code of the malware. Nerbia is a fictional place from the novel Don Quixote. The Nerbian RAT is written in Go programming language, compiled for 64-bit systems, to take the malware multi-platform. The malspam campaign spotted by Proofpoint started on April 26 and targeted multiple industries. The emails contain a weaponized Word attachment, which is sometimes compressed with RAR. Upon enabling the macros, the document provided reveals information relating to COVID-19 safety, specifically about measures for self-isolation of infected individuals. The document contains logos from the Health Service Executive Government of Ireland and National Council for the Blind of Ireland. Once opened, the document and the macro is enabled, a bat file executes a PowerShell acting as downloader for a Golang 64-bit dropper named updateuav.exe. The update UAV executable is a dropper for the Nerbian RAT and borrows the code from various GitHub projects. The Nerbian RAT supports a variety of different functions, such as logging keystrokes and capturing images of the screen, and handles communications over SSL. Proofpoint assesses with high confidence that the dropper and RAT were both created by the same entity, and while the dropper may be modified to deliver different payloads in the future, the dropper is statically configured to download and establish persistence for this specific payload at the time of the analysis, concludes a report that includes indicators of compromise. Researchers at SecureWorks Counter Threat Unit are investigating a series of attacks conducted by the Iran-linked COBALT MIRAGE app group. The threat actors have been active since at least June 2020 and are linked to the Iranian Cobalt Illusion Group, aka App35, Charming Kitten, Phosphorus, and Tunnel Vision. The researchers identified two distinct clusters of intrusions, labeled as Cluster A and Cluster B, associated with COBALT MIRAGE. In Cluster A, the app group used BitLocker and Descriptor to conduct financially motivated opportunistic ransomware attacks. Cluster B focuses on targeted attacks for intelligence purposes, but experts observe some attacks deploying ransomware. Most of the victims are in Israel, the US, Europe, and Australia. The threat actors obtained initial access by scanning servers exploded online and exploiting known vulnerabilities such as Fortinet, FortiOS vulnerability, CVE 2018-13379, CVE 2020, 12812, and CVE 2019-15591. Starting from late September 2021, the group was observed targeting Microsoft Exchange servers by exploiting the proxy shell vulnerabilities CVE 2021-34473, CVE 2021-34523, and CVE 2021-31207 to deploy fast reverse proxy clients and gain remote access to the systems. The researchers have also observed COBALT MIRAGE using, at the end of December, an unfinished attempt at ransomware. While their infrastructure was hosting files related to the Hidden Tear open source ransomware project, the latter has yet to be used by the group in attacks in the wild. SonicWall urges customers to address several high-risk security vulnerabilities affecting its secure mobile access 1000 series line of products. An attacker can exploit the vulnerabilities by bypassing or to bypass authorization and potentially compromise vulnerable devices. The first issue tracked the CVE 2022-22282 in an unauthenticated access control bypass flaw. It affects SMA 1000 series firmware 12.40, 12.41, 0295965 and earlier versions. The flaw was rated high severity. SonicWall SMA 1000 series firmware 12.40, 12.41-02965 and earlier versions incorrectly restricts access to a resource using HTTP connections from an unauthorized actor, leading to improper access control vulnerability. Reads the description of this issue. The vendor also addressed a hard-coded cryptographic key and an open redirect issue. The two flaws are rated as medium severity. The SonicWall Product Security and Incident Response Team said that it is now aware of attacks in the wild exploiting any of the above flaws, or all of the above flaws. The company pointed out that there are no temporary mitigations. SonicWall urges impacted customers to implement applicable patches as soon as possible, continues the report. A group of pro-Russian hackers known as KillNet launched an attack against multiple websites of 7 Italian institutions, including the Senate, the National Institute of Health, and the Automobile Club of d'Italia, the National Drivers Association. The wave of attacks hit Italy while the Prime Minister Mario Draghi is on an official visit to Washington. The website of the Defense Ministry was also unreachable, but the official said that the unavailability was due to long-planned maintenance activities ongoing on the website. The KillNet group announced its support to Russia and launched attacks against Western targets, including Romanian government sisters, and the Bradley Airport in the United States. Romanian government sites. I don't know why it says sisters. The impact was limited. The websites were unreachable for a short period of time. Italian authorities confirmed that the attacks have not caused data breaches or other damages. The Italian police are investigating the attack, while the National Computer Security Incident Response Team confirmed that the websites were hit by the DDoS attacks. The pro-Russian hacktivists launched a slow post-DDoS attack. The CSIRT warns that this kind of attack is unusual, and for this reason, it could be undetected. KillNet published a message on its Telegram channel threatening further attacks by writing this letter: "Dear media of Italy and Spain, KillNet does not actually attack your countries like it did in Romania. If this were to happen, then April 29, 1945, the day of your surrender, would be repeated very quickly. Our Legion conducts military cyber exercises in your countries in order to improve their skills. Everything happens similarly to your actions. The Italians and Spanish are going to learn how to kill people in Ukraine. Our Legion is learning to kill your servers. You must understand that this is training. Don't make too much noise. I'm sick of the amount of news about attacks on the Senate. I give you my word of honor that our cyber army will soon finish training in your territory, and we will go on the offensive. It'll happen suddenly and very quickly." The list of the targeted websites was shared on the Telegram channel of the pro-Russian hack collective known as the Legion, which focuses on attacks against Western organizations and governments, including NATO countries and Ukraine. The Legion also launched an attack against the ongoing Eurovision Song Contest, which is taking place in Turin, Italy, this year, but I think they canceled that, actually. At this time, it is not clear which is the exact relationship of the Legion and the KillNet group. Since the beginning of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, the Italian cybersecurity agency ACN has raised alert levels due to the possible spillover of the cyber dispute between the two countries. Recently, other major attacks hit Italian infrastructure, including hospitals and Italian state-owned railway company Ferrovie dello Stato Italiane. We now move on to other security news. The U.S. Department of State offers up to $15 million for the information that helps identify and locate leadership and co-conspirators of the Conti ransomware gang. The reward is offered under the Department of State's Transnational Organized Crime Rewards Program. The authorities are offering up to $10 million for information that could allow identifying individuals who hold a key leadership position in the Conti ransomware gang, while an additional $5 million are offered for information that could lead to the arrest and or conviction of any individual in any country conspiring to participate in or attempting to participate in a Conti variant ransomware incident. The Conti ransomware group breached hundreds of organizations over the past 2 years. The FBI estimates that as of January 22, the gang obtained $150 million in ransom payments from over 1,000 victims. The National Institute of Standards and Technology has released updated guidance for defending against supply chain attacks. The NIST has published the Cybersecurity Supply Chain Risk Management Practices for Systems and Organizations in response to the Executive Order 14028 improving the nation's cybersecurity. The guidance details the risks at all levels of the organizations. It provides information about major security controls and practices that organizations should adopt to identify, assess, and respond to these threats. The experts highlighted the importance of the security of supply chain for modern products and services. A device may have been designed in one country, and its components could be manufactured across multiple countries worldwide. This might result in a dramatic enlargement of the surface of attacks for organizations worldwide. A security incident suffered by one of the companies producing these components could have a significant impact on the overall product and service. The European Union accused Russia of the cyber attack that hit the satellite KASAT network in Ukraine, operated by Viasat on February 24th. This cyber attack caused communication outages and disruptions in the Ukraine. It also impacted several EU member states. 5,800 Enercon wind turbines in Germany were unreachable due to the spillover from this attack. Security researchers at Sentinel Labs, who investigated the attack, spotted a previously undetected destructive wiper tracked as acid rain that hit routers and modems. The European Union and its member states, together with its international partners, strongly condemn the malicious cyber attack activity conducted by the Russian Federation against the Ukraine, which targeted the satellite CASSAT network operated by Viasat, reads the press release published by the European Union. This unacceptable cyber attack is yet another example of Russia's continued pattern of irresponsible behavior in cyber espionage, in cyberspace, which also formed an integral part of its illegal and unjustifiable invasion of the Ukraine. UN member states pointed out that the conduct of the Russian Federation in cyberspace is not respecting the norms of responsible state behavior in the fifth domain of warfare. EU members argue that cyber attacks targeting Ukraine could spill over into other countries and pose European critical infrastructure, businesses, and citizens at risk. The European Union, working closely with its partners, is considering further steps to prevent, discourage, deter, and respond to such malicious behavior in cyberspace. The European Union will continue to provide coordinated political, financial, and material support to Ukraine to strengthen its cyber resilience, concludes the press release. Russia must stop this war and bring an end to the senseless human suffering immediately. The U.S. Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA, has added critical CVE-2022-1388 flaw in F5 Big IP products to its Known Exploited Vulnerabilities Catalog. According to Binding Operational Directive blah 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 2201, every known government organization needs to fix this by this, that, and that date, and this, that, and the other thing. Experts recommend also private organizations review the catalog and address the vulnerabilities in their own infrastructure because why not? Be safe. Last week, Security and Application Delivery Solutions provider F5 released its security notification, which we've talked about now twice within this episode. Its security notification to inform customers that it has released security updates from tens of vulnerabilities in its products. The company addressed a total of 43 vulnerabilities. The most severe one is a critical issue tracked as CVE 2022-1388 with a CVSS score of 9.8. An unauthenticated attacker with network access to the Big IP system through the management port and or self-IP address can exploit this CVE 2022-1388 flaw to execute arbitrary system commands. It can create or delete files or disable services. With that, I say thanks again for watching. Don't forget to share and subscribe if you have not already, and smash the bell if you have not already. And I'll see you on the next episode. Take care.
Don't forget to ride!